And it's an entrepreneurial organization. You can come on and talk about it. So we'll go for 10 minutes.
Okay, I got 10 minutes. I'll go fast.
Do you have Joel?
So I'll give you a little background. I'm a doctor of dental surgery, serial entrepreneur. I was on the faculty at Harvard School of Dental Medicine and the NYU College of Dentistry. I've been the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. I've received the Medal of Freedom from members of the United States Senate, and I've been chairman of a public company that I founded that was the best performing stock in the first quarter of 1997 across all three exchanges. So my life has been healthcare, and I have treated acute pain and chronic pain. Acute pain is short-lived. Let's say you had 4 wisdom teeth out or you fell down. It's something that would be fleeting. It would go away. And typically we treat it with Tylenol and Motrin and even a scotch. But you don't need opioids, and you'll see where I'm going. Chronic pain is something that lasts longer. You get up every day and something hurts. And typically people who are older live like this, and it's no fun. And the problem is that these people are given drugs that also contain opioids. Now, the subcategory is called neuropathic pain, and that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So that's pain from diabetes, chemotherapy, shingles, post-surgical pain. And physicians and dentists are writing prescriptions that don't work. They're giving them prescriptions for antidepressants, anticonvulsants, and opioids. And the consequence of all of this is that the United States of America, as well as other countries, is in the worst healthcare crisis in the history of our country. I'll give you a little background. I went into practice in 1978. I had a father who was a Bellevue-trained surgeon. I caught him taking my triplicates and writing prescriptions for Percodan because his pain in his extremities for diabetes was so awful to take. And I'm not going to tell you I understood it at the age of 24, but I understand it now. If you're in pain, you'll take what you need. My office was broken into multiple times, and what was gone? The opioids. And I knew that when I wrote prescriptions for facial pain or trigeminal pain or TMJ, that they didn't work. The whole thing is a charade, and it's got to stop. It's costing the United States $1.5 trillion annually. It's in 1 of 3 American homes. 42 million people over the age of 12 are taking opioids. So you look to the left and you look to the right. If you think it can't affect you because you have money or an education, you're kidding yourself. So I got into Cornell and I got into Columbia, and I found a non-opioid drug development. The Goldstein team in Burke, we developed a non-opioid, non-addictive drug for chronic pain. It will potentially dominate a $15 to $25 billion market for the capitalists, and I hope solve the opioid problem, which is the worst healthcare problem in the history of the United States. So we developed the drug from a drug called propofol, which is a safe and effective general anesthetic used every second of every day. But we made it so it didn't cross the blood-brain barrier. We altered the chemistry of it. We've been granted patents in China, Japan, the United States, and Australia. So we're well on our way with more to come. The NIH delivered about $3 million. Cornell and Columbia delivered about $8 million. And I have a private placement circulating to friends and family for $2.25 million. I need another $8 million to get me to the IND. I think at that point, we would have a very, very important reception from the investment community. Our tests have been published in animals, in vivo, before we file an IND. We have more to go. And the results have been published in the British Journal of Anesthesia and Nature, which are the 2 most prestigious journals in the world. Our team, we have the head of business development at Amgen, former heads of neuroscience at Lilly, Merck, and Pfizer, Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, the chief of pain at Harvard Medical School, where I was on the faculty, the dental school, the head of licensing out of Harvard, Senator Daschle, who is the Senate Majority Leader of the United States. And I think that we're poised to do this. What I said to you before and what gave me comfort was that we took a safe and effective general anesthetic and we altered the chemistry of it and got a new patent. And I believe that by inhibiting something called the HCN1 ion channel, which is in the peripheral nervous system, we can stop chronic pain and we can end the opioid crisis. Thank you.
Any questions? Question. Thank you so much for that. So the question you have has to do with that. So have you, what is the outcome result for those who are using this medication or your solution?
Well, the outcome is not in the public's hands yet. We have to go through FDA approval. But in animals, we have found efficacy, safety, bioavailability on every level. We have found dramatic results. And as I say, they've been peer-reviewed and published in Nature and the British Journal of Anesthesia. So we have learned a lot. And we also know now, a few months ago, for the first time, they identified the propofol, which has been used for 40 years in the operating room, is binding at the HCN1 ion channel in human beings. So if we know a lot about animals and we're figuring that out about humans, I don't think it takes a lot to connect the dots. And I also believe that as we get to phase 1, that we will get fast track, because the definition of fast track is meets an unmet medical need, and we surely meet that. So I think this thing will move along quickly, but we have to raise capital, and I have a private placement circulating for $14 million. That's the ask under Rule 506C to accredited investors.
Thank you.
Steve?
Steve, what is, we know each other.
Sure, we know each other a long time.
What does
Here you
it
go.
exactly,
Here.
what does it exactly address? Meaning, what part of the body is numbed?
Okay.
Probably a poor word, but you got the
So
concept.
that's a very good question.
And what are the side effects,
So
if any?
the interesting thing about our drug and what makes it non-addictive is that it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. It doesn't get into the. If you're a diabetic, your pain is in the arms and in the legs. It's neuropathic pain. If you're taking chemotherapy and you're taking a platinum, a lot of people opt to die instead of finish the chemotherapy because it's that painful. Post-surgical pain. These are the pains that you go through typically if you're having therapy, but also last you the rest of your life. So it's keeping it out of the central nervous system. And we have an anchor tether pharmacophore model, which we use to keep it out of that system. And that might be applicable to other drugs with tissue specificity later on. The central nervous
The
system is the
central-
spine and the brain.
Yeah. Now, for instance, I'll give you an example. I have stenosis in the back.
Okay.
I get pain in the sciatic nerve.
Okay.
Would that address that? Or
Maybe,
is that
maybe
something
if
that-
there's damage to the neurons, which is where neuropathic pain comes from, possibly, but we're focused on chemotherapy, diabetes, shingles, and post-surgical pain. That's enough, believe me.
Fantastic. Great. So great job. Thanks so much. And we're going to move on to the next group of speakers.
Thank you for having me.
I am making a switch. We're going to go with the healthcare panel first and then the credit panel. So I'm going to need Stephen Katz, Mr. Katz. Oh, I think he's prepping. And Svi? Is Svi down here? I've got Norm and Sean Kovaleski. It's maybe Svi's online. Let me just, I'll find out. Why don't you guys grab a seat? I think it's probably better.
Steve Katz said he was stuck in the Lincoln Tunnel.
No, he's here. He's here.
Here.
Yeah. And we need speed.
And John's gonna join us.
Oh, even perfect. Fantastic. Great.
Morning.
Hey, how's it going?
What are you?
So I guess we have two tables here. We split them up. So we'll do two here and two there. Or we can just do all of them here. It's the cool table. I had that problem in high school. So I will say that the chronic pain issue is a big deal. Living with a doctor, I know that I've seen people who have been opium shopping, like unbelievable. People do crazy things. Like one person said once they got a prescription and they said that they were driving down the street and they were holding the prescription in their hand and it flew out the window. So they came back for another one. All right. But now they have all these systems that are in place where it's recorded. Right. And I think, I mean, the whole world of prescriptions for pain is just out of control. It's highly regulated today. So I'm going to see if V is online. And where is Katz? Yeah, we need him. Yeah, we need him. Yeah, he's here. He's on the phone. Oh yeah, here, take this. Fantastic, great. There he is. There he is, Mr. America. Come on, cats. We need you. We're running like a broken clock. All right, Steve Katz is up. Introduce yourself.
Good morning. My apologies for being just briefly late. We're going to be speaking about healthcare today. We have a very, very interesting and novel panel. We'll be talking about cancer and cancer-related processes and the use of technology, AI, and other advanced technologies associated with clinical, administrative, and research functions at major cancer organizations in the U.S. I am Stephen Katz. I am a healthcare consultant. I am the president of Stephen Katz and Associates, a management consulting firm addressing the healthcare life sciences business. I've been that for 42 years. My experience is advising early stage, intermediate stage, and later stage companies on strategy, licensing, commercialization. I've been involved in proxy fights. I've been on 28 boards. I've raised capital 80 times and executed about 75 or 80 license agreements and a variety of activities in healthcare, plus 15 turnarounds around the world in healthcare. My panel consists today of Tzvi Gal, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And we're fortunate to have the two leading executives who are the gentleman that operates Stand Up for Cancer to speak here today, and our third and last guest, well-known Norm Friedland, who's going to be speaking about his topic of mission funding and how it will be applicable to these activities. My first speaker is Tzvi Gal. Tzvi is, as I said, Chief Technology Officer of Memorial Sloan Kettering, and he's responsible. Oh, I thought that he was sitting there. I do apologize. Okay, so we're gonna shift around on the speaking. We're gonna have the people from Stand Up to Cancer speak, and that's going to be Dr. Julian Adams and Sean Kowaleski. Dr. Adams has a long and stellar career in product development, research, having been an executive at major pharmaceutical companies and enjoying a reputation as a world-renowned researcher and pharmaceutical executive. Sean Kowaleski is Executive Vice President of Stand Up for Cancer and is responsible for many of the projects and programs conducted by Stand Up for Cancer. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the first question. And it's going to be to Dr. Adams. And that is, what is the mission of Stand Up to Cancer, and what does the organization do?
Thank you for the very kind introduction. And I just want to correct one preposition. It's Stand Up to Cancer, not for cancer.
I'm sure I said it wrong, and I have it on my sheet correct, because it just arrived. I didn't get a
But
chance
that's
to
okay.
look.
No, I'm not. I don't mean to be obnoxious.
With apologies.
Our mission is to cure cancer, pure and simple. It's the second leading cause of death, as we know, in the United States. It's increasing. And while I'm making these comments, there's a diagnosis of cancer every 16 seconds in the United States. And it's similar across the world. There are different cancers in different countries, of course, and susceptibilities, but our job, and we're in 14 countries right now, conducting research to cure cancer, pure and simple. When I joined Stand Up to Cancer 2 years ago, cure was a 4-letter word that we were not allowed to use by the previous regime. And I said, that's unacceptable. I will stand for nothing less than a cure. I don't want to discourage cancer. I don't want to make cancer feel insulted. I want to cure it. And we have established a deliberate platform, a deliberate strategy of what is our role in this world. And you asked that specific question. I've spent over 40 years in industry, in both pharma and biotech. I've discovered first-in-class drugs. I'm probably best known for the first treatment for multiple myeloma, Velcade, which changed the natural history of the disease. People are living 10, 15 years where they lived for months before I took on this program. I have 6 other drugs, either approved or in development. And then in joining the nonprofit as sort of my retirement plan, I realized that there's a gulf. The academic science discovers basic research, which eventually leads to all the theories, which lead to the eventual adoption by industry to make better treatments and better outcomes for patients. But there's a gap in between, and that gap is in early detection and interception of cancer, where it's very clear that it's 7 times cheaper to treat stage 1 disease than stage 4 disease. Moreover, stage 1 disease has a 90% 5-year survivorship and mostly cure rate, whereas stage 4 disease has about a 10% survivorship. Depends on different cancers, of course, but roughly that's the weighted average. So we, as a philanthropy, have to bridge. Sorry, can you hear me better now? Sorry, I apologize. There is a gulf between what academic research is doing and what eventually can be funded in the for-profit world. And we are the bridge to that gap. We will do it through philanthropic dollars. And as my colleague Sean will tell you, how we do it with investment dollars as well.
Thank you, Sean. And Dr. Adams will describe shortly some illustrative research programs and activities, but in the broad scheme of things, how does this activity, how does this research, how does this groundbreaking, significant, and as you say, bridge, how does this get funded? How do you bring in capital for this? What's the mechanism?
Sure, absolutely. So nice to see everyone today, and thank you, Marty, for giving us this opportunity, and for everyone who's supported our mission over the last few years. We really do appreciate it. As far as how, we're very fortunate to have, when Stand Up to Cancer was started, we had some really great companies come behind us very early and said, we love what you're doing. We love how you're really focused on cures, as Julian mentioned, and got behind our mission. So we had 3 major partners from very early stage that came in and support our mission. We have a lot of families and a lot of individuals that come to us and say, there's a history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer in our family. And, we really want to put our family's legacy behind stopping this terrible disease. So we'll work with those families to design projects, focus on an interest area, and we'll run those projects. Foundations is another great source. As Julian mentioned, we're across all cancer types. So we're able to collaborate with a number of organizations, being that we're not just one specific restricted disease. We really are looking for cures, as Julian mentioned, across all cancers. So that gives us a lot of partnership and collaboration opportunities with other foundations as well. And then for the last point about, that's how we've historically, our model has been funded, but we are looking to the future. We know that bridging this gap is going to take a different type of strategy. And I think for family offices here, we want to position Stand Up to Cancer to be able to work with families with their philanthropic capital, but also their investment capital. How can we play a role in getting families into these early stage companies that we know there's an interest in, and how can we help stretch those dollars and ultimately make a greater impact for patients, but also have that return element. So the future is looking very bright, and we are in the beginning stages of that impact fund that we've discussed.
Fantastic. Now, you and I did discuss that we're going to speak in the course of your dialogue, and you will shortly, about the potential commercial opportunities. And we're certainly not expressing a solicitation to raise capital. We're simply going to mind bend a little bit, which you'll do in a moment, about what can be the potential directions, general schemes for accomplishing such things. But for the moment, Doctor, would you be kind enough to share with us 2 or 3 examples of technologies, processes you're currently funding or have funded recently, so we have a sense of the kinds of activities on a specific basis that you're engaged in?
Yeah. So let me talk about a baked successful project. We worked with Luis Diaz at Memorial Sloan Kettering in a subtype of rectal cancer, which is at an advanced stage. The standard of care treatment was a very difficult surgery that removes much of your rectum, your colon, other organs that may be affected locally, and leaves you with an ostomy bag for the rest of your life and a very miserable quality of life. We came up with an idea. That is to say, Dr. Diaz came up with an idea which we funded, which defined a certain genetic population that could respond to immunotherapy. And we published in the New England Journal of Medicine, 42 out of 42 patients had 100% regression of their disease. And with a 4-year follow-up, no one has recurred. So imagine the dramatic improvement in quality of life, notwithstanding that disease is not recurring and patients don't have to undergo these morbid surgeries.
Just want to insert that 42 out of 42 is like an unbelievably wonderful statistic. I mean, very few clinical programs and protocols have anywhere near such a success rate. People think 60, 70, 80% is success.
Exactly. So I'm giving you our best hit, our best hit of all, our best success rate of a recent project funded. We have another 10 or 12, maybe not as dramatic, but certainly practice altering treatments over the years. What I'm looking to for the future is very, again, specifically to that fits our strategy. We've just launched a lung cancer detection program to detect stage 1 and stage 2 disease in smokers, heavy smokers. FDA has approved low-dose CT scans in patients who are 20-pack-year smokers over the age of 50. And the adoption rate is literally 1%. Okay. So basically a useless monitoring approach. And so what we've launched is a complete liquid biopsy. And you heard perhaps from David Robb yesterday with the breathalyzer test. We want to take that test, combine it with blood biopsies, blood draws, saliva, and urine, and multiplex this multimodal, multi-omic approach to detect not just the presence of the malignancy, but that it's specific to lung cancer. It's got defined genetics, and then we will feed that algorithm, this multimodal algorithm, to an AI tool, a machine learning approach, to change the low-dose CT, which is only about 80% accurate, to try to get it to 97% accurate. So that's going to change and we have about 16 to 20 million Americans that suffer from that are subjects for the low-dose CT. So we have an FDA-approved standard. We mean to blow away that standard, and it'll be a kind of annual test for those patients. We're going to do that for every cancer type. Okay.
Could I add that a target of 97% is a lofty objective, and once again, a statistic that most people in the medical industry that conduct clinicals and do proof of concept testing and stage 1 and stage 2 never achieved that kind of a result. So I think it's enormously positive that the aim and the objectives are at that level.
We are aiming high. If we fail and only get 94%, I'll take it. It's still
Shame
better
on
than
you.
80. So again, I have a very, very high standard for what's going to change medical practice and get adopted, because it's one thing to get an FDA approval, and I have FDA approvals, but I have also failed in some cases to get adoption. I have a bone marrow transplant product that has, a 5% adoption rate, even though it's the best product in the world. So it's one thing, to solve a problem, but it's another thing for the world to recognize that you've solved that problem and adopt it for an affordable cost.
Doctor, I would point out that you're identifying a very critical issue, but I would say that the adoption is not in your backyard to control and manage. That's a problem of a different nature. I think you brought the technology home and you developed it ostensibly, and it then becomes the role of other parties to help get that quote adopted into the process.
And that speaks to the fact that I'm a scientist and drug discoverer, drug developer, but I'm not a commercial person. And it's about understanding the global market problem. And as I, age like a fine wine, I have come to understand the limitations, that not everything is in my control, but there's a lot that can be done by partnering with people who know how to get adoption adopted.
So this is a perfect segue into the next question I have for Sean. We spoke earlier that is there a way for pardon? We're almost done. Twee needs to go at 11:30, so we're in good shape. He'll be done well in advance of that. So we just got another segment of this, and then we'll shift into Twee. And you shared with me that he's on the screen now. I can't see. Twee, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be with you shortly. And
No worries,
stand
no
by
worries.
just a few moments.
No
I had
worries.
my own travel problems this morning with the Lincoln Tunnel. Gonna have to have a talk with him. Anyway, it's a good segue into the next question for Sean, because adoption, that means commercial partners. It may mean big pharma. It may mean other entities. And I think that the scope of what Stand Up to Cancer is trying to accomplish is exactly that. So to that point, Sean, at a very high level and without making a commitment and without defining what a pathway is and without defining what a commercial relationship can be, is it in the cards at some point for family offices, other investors, strategic partners, big pharma, other medical healthcare entities, hospital chains are excellent vehicles for adoption? So is it in the cards to integrate that, work that in, get that coordinated, make it in some fashion a part of the program?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. I think when Stand Up was founded, the cornerstone, I think if you describe in one word, collaboration. That's what's really set our model apart from day one, was the ability to bring all of these groups together, because we know our role and the role that Julian just articulated very clearly in the whole space, but we're not going to do it in isolation. We need different groups that come in with their expertise, early stage, middle stage, late stage, helping with adoption to actually make the biggest impact. So we are looking at all sorts of collaborations between for-profits, nonprofits, because it is going to take everybody.
Good. Well, thank you very, very much. I think that was a very good and well organized thought process, and I thought you delivered a very good message. I'm going to turn.
If I may just add one other
Sure.
commercial. It's one thing to identify cancer, which is primarily our mission, but it's not good to tell the patient, I think you have cancer. I'm sure you have cancer. In fact, I'm 97% sure you have cancer, but I have nothing to do for you. So the flip side of that is we want to intercept that cancer when it's got a few 100,000 cells, maybe 1 million cells, but not 1 trillion cells. And so we're also putting a massive effort into interception, beginning with therapeutic cancer vaccines. And I work a lot in this arena as well. And we are pioneering a revolutionary vaccine technology that's based on developing a bacterial delivery system, which involves no needles. It just involves taking a Q-tip, swiping the nasal cavity, and you are now protected and will fight cancer. So we're using the plasticity of the immune system to match the plasticity of cancer. So I just want to put a little forward, and there's a huge opportunity both for philanthropic contribution to get the proof of concept, and then eventually a spin-out opportunity to build what could be billions and billions of doses to cover the world, including low and middle income countries.
Terrific. Thank you so much. We're going to turn our, yes.
The explanation. What is the nomenclature of cancer? What is the nomenclature of cancer? Is it a malfunction of the cell? 2, what causes this malfunction, if that's the case? And 3, what are the modalities to address solving it? If that helps, hopefully that question will help.
So maybe let's begin. What causes cancer? Every single day, we are subjected to environmental stresses. We also have hereditary cancers. That's about 5% of cancer, by the way. But 95% of cancer comes from environmental insults: radiation, smoking, alcohol, tobacco.
So it's a malfunction of a cell? Is it a malfunction of the cell caused by those?
Our immune system is designed to detect all of this, and our DNA has DNA repair enzymes. So when there's a mutation in DNA, so the definition of cancer is it's a mutation in your DNA that does not get corrected. That's pre-cancer. If you get another mutation and another mutation, that becomes a carcinoma, a cancer. And by then, it learns how to evade the immune system. We're learning how to harness the immune system to go after that. Last century, it was all chemotherapy. This century, it's all about precision medicine, targeted therapies, immunotherapy, harnessing the body's repair mechanisms to rid ourselves of cancer. So that's, first year college, graduate school description of cancer.
Thank you. All right, are we up? Is there a further question?
Yeah, so thank you for that. You did mention the environmental factor, right? Should that include like food that you take, right? Processed food, all that stuff, right?
Yes, and so the question was, does that include processed food? So my grandparents probably had environmental insults by lead. Okay, because we didn't know lead was an environmental insult. My parents probably had exposures to asbestos, cancer causing. My generation probably has an overdose of microplastics. So every generation is experiencing a different environmental insult. And we have not kept up with trying to understand the onset of cancer to begin with. Obviously, we know radiation, like solar radiation, melanoma. We've made certain discrete connections, alcohol, obesity, smoking, as I've mentioned, but we are just touching the surface. We do not understand. And by the way, the statistics are that early onset cancers are on the rise, particularly colon and lung, as was described actually yesterday by ASCO, the American Society for Clinical Oncology. We are seeing cancer occur in younger and younger patients. And the truth is, we don't know why. It's multifactorial for sure. But we're all over trying to understand every facet of what causes cancer and then how to intercept it and cure it.
Okay.
So the question I have, so based on that high spectrum, right? So there's specific type of cancer that is targeted. So we can focus on these And for the solution for this, that would be targeted areas close to look at the entire process.
Well, we have to study everything because the biology that is in lung is certainly not the same as the biology that is in prostate, but there are common features to both. So we have to understand, what causes the cell to become a mutant cell and develop cancer in its particular organ, or whether it's blood or a solid or a different organ. So we don't have the luxury of just focusing on one individual cancer and think we're solving a bigger problem.
I'm going to suggest that we stop the questions on this segment so we can have Svigal speak and we can pick it up right at the end if there are further questions. Good for Tzvi. We're in good shape. Okay, so Svigal, our next speaker, next member of our panel, is the Chief Technology Officer and Head of Enterprise Technology Services at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Amongst his other responsibilities, his duties are to modernize clinical research, administration, and testing using AI technology, cloud technology, and related new technology systems. His prior experience as a Chief Information Officer and Chief Technology Officer include a stint with Bank of America, Time Warner Music, and other organizations. Good morning, Tzvi, and thank you for making the time to be with us.
Good morning and my pleasure. Sorry that I could not be there physically, but maybe next time.
It's no problem. What is the general nature of the research activities that take place at Memorial Sloan Kettering? Everybody knows it's a go-to place for cancer treatment, but what tell us a little bit about what the organization does and how it works.
Sure. So let me start with basically, generally MSK is divided into three parts. What we call Memorial Hospital, which is the hospital with the treatment, administration, etc. That's about 25,000 people. Then we have our research entity, Sloan Kettering, which is Sloan Kettering Institute, SKI. That's about 8,000 people. This is where most of our research is done. That's the basic research. Translational research is done within the hospital. And then we also have the university where we do together with Rockefeller University and Weill Cornell. We provide degrees, but mostly we also host a lot of postdocs. In terms of the research itself, basically MSK research covers the full spectrum of basic, translational, and clinical innovation. It's linking scientific discovery directly to the patient care, which is really important because that's where we hear about a lot of experimental drugs, etc. We are able to hide them in the cases that are needed and traditional treatment doesn't work. We integrate both genomics, immunotherapy, and computational modeling to understand the cancer mechanism and develop personalized treatment. I think that in the Stanford cancer discussion you had before, this was absolutely the case, trying to understand what causes cancer, which could be different things, and then hopefully get to the point that we can create a vaccine to prevent it. And I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. We have an advanced high-performance computing environment and AI platforms that drive large-scale genomic sequencing, analysis, imaging, and we also use digital twins simulation, which again, we'll talk later on as examples. This really the real aim or the central aim is to convert every patient interaction into new knowledge that improves the outcome and accelerates discovery. Basically, every patient that comes to MSK today will go through form of genomic sequencing to understand them, so the treatment will be personalized. With the goal, again, the end is to basically not just treat cancer, but prevent cancer.
Thank you. Give us an example or two of programs that you're leading right now that represent groundbreaking cutting edge technology that illustrate the length and the breadth of the organization's capability and what you're working on, just to give us a flavor.
Sure. I'll give three examples, one from each category. So the way we look at our environment is we have the front office, middle office, back office, and research. I'll give three examples. I'll start with the one that is probably The most exciting one, which is digital twins usage for drug discovery. So we know enough about the genome of the mouse to create a digital simulation of the mouse. And what we have done, we basically created that for several cases, and then we infect the simulation with a certain disease based on our understanding of the disease and the way the proteins work and the cell splicing and all of the above. And we used this just for an example. We used this one to really understand and model the tumor behavior and then test new drug combinations. Normally, when we look at something like this, and I'm going to use rectal cancer as an example, we have about 150,000 permutations of what we can do. Using AI, we basically were able to, again, reduce the number to a much smaller number, like 300 or so, by running the models on the digital image of the disease. And of course, AI being AI, in the beginning, AI gave us several solutions that basically were able to treat cancer, but also killed the carbon life forms that carries it. So we had to tell the model, we actually do care about the carbon life form. Please keep them alive. And we had to change the models as such. To make a long story short, based in this particular case, the AI came with a novel idea in terms of how to treat this particular cancer, which is rectal cancer. And there was a study that was published in the end of 23, and then with only 12 people, and then the next one in 24 with about 200 cases. And let me actually turn it to you guys and give you a guess, ask you to guess. What do you think was the percentage of people that got fully cured, basically full remission as a result of this treatment? Anyone?
100%. 100%.
You're absolutely correct.
That was our study. You joined.
That was the study we described with Luis Diaz.
Right. And that's true. And we try not to use this number because, something will happen in the future. But this was the first and only time we know that a treatment got to this percentage, and this could not have been achieved without the AI modeling. So that's just one example. A second one that I'm going to use is more in the ambient AI in the clinical practice. That's where the doctor will have a conversation with the patient, and after that, they need to write their summary, and usually they do it with the ineligible handwriting, because my mother was a doctor, I know that. And my aunt was a pharmacist and made her entire career by being able to read my mother's handwriting. But today, what we do, we actually...
It's called a monopoly.
Absolutely. So what we do today, actually, the software basically listens to the conversation, summarizes it in two forms. One for the doctor, which is use medical terms as well as the right codes to put and the diagnostics, etc. I'm going to talk about the ends on in a second. That other one is for the patient, which use basically plain English that they can understand. So this is what comes with the products that we use kind of as is. But what we are adding to this is now the ability to go and search our entire data set of cases. And just point in case that we record every case that we ever had. So I can tell you right now that in April of 1880, the first patients that ever came to MSK, we know the exact cancers that she had, we know the treatment, and we keep it. So we have huge amount of data sets, and definitely cancer itself evolved over the years. So the system will basically bring the doctor several ideas and say, okay, we found 75,000 cases similar to the one you are describing. 20% use this treatment, 17% this treatment, etc. Those were the percentage of success. Those were the side effects, etc. At the end of the day, the doctor needs to make the decisions. They can choose any one of those, or they can choose their own treatment, but at least they do it based on the body of knowledge of all the cases that we ever had. So that's just the second example. The third one is actually less sexy than the others, but very effective. Basically, about close to 5 years ago, I decided to outsource our level 1 support in the help desk, and later on it went to patient care and so on. But rather than outsource it to a vendor, we outsource it to AI. At the time, this was a conversational AI. This was pre-Gen AI. Later on, we, of course, upgraded to Gen AI, now to agentic AI. And at the time, the wait time, average wait time was 42 minutes, and the abandon rate was about 27.5%. Today, our wait time is less than 1 minute. We have zero abandon rate, and our cost went down by 35%. So not as glamorous as digital twins, and not as glamorous as the ambient, but something that is extremely effective and actually provide an ROI. I'll just add another comment that like every other board, our board is always pushing for use AI, use AI, use AI. And my question to them was always, okay, why? In other words, what is the ROI? What is the outcome you're looking for? So we put together about 100 cases that are possible, divided them by the categories I talked about before, front office, middle office, back office research, and then prioritize them by the ones that have the basically easier to do with the highest impact. In other words, you read the MIT studies, and 95% of the AI cases don't have an ROI. In our case, we basically said if we don't have an ROI, we're just not doing it. I'll stop here because I can talk about it later. If anybody interested to know what exactly we do, which technology, etc., by all means, be happy to do it, but let's do it offline. Back to you.
So, Zvi, we're going to dispense with the third illustration and description. I'd like you to comment briefly on criteria and parameters of selection of projects and efforts, and what's the thinking behind that briefly, so that we can have Norm provide a good wrap up and we don't run out of time at party.
Yeah, I'll talk as fast as I can. Realistically, there are several categories that we're looking for. The first one is the patients and the mission impact. The priority goes to the projects that really have clear clinical relevance and measurable contribution to our mission of curing cancer. If it's not one of those, it is less priority. The second one is scientific and translational merit. The initiatives must demonstrate really rigorous science with a path to real-world application and potential to change the standards of care. In other words, this is not about science project as much as it is a science project, but in the ways that it has to have a practical implementation at the end. Next one is feasibility and data readiness. We are trying to assess the technical, computational, and regulatory readiness, including availability of structured high-quality data for AI and modeling, because that will make it way more feasible to do. Last but not least, but very important, ethical and collaborative value, preference of projects that meet our governance and privacy standards and foster collaboration across our department and with other institutions in the world. One of the things to keep in mind is that cancer is different based on different types of people and ethnicity. And there is a certain bias when all of your cases are coming from very similar ethnic group, you're missing all the other ones. So we pay a lot of attention to make sure that we have a diversity of everybody.
Thank you. Do we have time for one quick question, Marty, and then on to Zvi? Are there any questions for Zvi? Okay. Thank you, Zvi. Thank you so much, and thank you for making the time, and we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care now. Our next panelist that's going to speak is Norm Friedland, well known to all of us. Norm is the co-founder of Full Sky Partners, a advisory firm that specializes in mission funding based here in New York City. This is an IRS approved technique for foundations and others to make investments in worthy commercial opportunities. Norm is a former partner at Cravath, Swaine & Moore, a Tilden Scholar, and has extensive corporate commercial experience in venture capital, technology, and licensing. Norm, thank you for being here. And would you be kind enough to explain to us in a little more detail what mission funding is about beyond this very, very topical description that I provided?
Thank you, Steve. Just a correction, I did not make a partner at Cravath, but I know a lot of partners at Cravath, and I learned a lot when I was there. First of all, let me just say I'm tremendously honored by being on this panel with two representatives of just world-class institutions. What you have heard today is so heartening, because what you're going to be hearing in 5 or 10 years is we can cure cancer. That's unbelievable. And so just make a note in your diary. You were here, and you heard it from Sloan
November
Kettering.
12th.
You heard it from Julian Adams, and my job is very prosaic. I bring people together. Svi is here, and Julian and Sean are here because these are groups that I work with. And my job is bringing them to the attention of owners of philanthropic assets, family offices that have private foundations or have donor advised funds, who have a mission of disease across all categories, particularly cancer. And what we present to these owners of philanthropic assets, who I think are in the audience primarily, is how those philanthropic assets can be deployed impactfully, with great deliverables in a time frame for people like me who don't buy green bananas. And so it's really tremendously important to find people like Julian, to find organizations like Sloan Kettering, who are not simply writing papers or conducting research, but really delivering the solutions. And those solutions have to be equitable. They have to be available to not simply people who can afford them or understand that they're even available. They have to be equitable, they have to be accessible, and they have to be affordable. And so Julian spoke of the gap. The other gap is the funding gap. We've all heard of the valley of death. We are currently, and we've been in this situation for now 2 years, we're currently in the nuclear winter for life science funding. The solutions that exist today sounded like science fiction 5 years ago. And the solutions that are going to be available 5 years from now are going to make today's solutions seem like science fiction. But these solutions need capital. And the ROI capital isn't there at scale that's going to make this happen. And so our job is to unlock the tsunami of wealth transfer that's occurring in this country, about $2.5 trillion every year, going from my generation, not me, from my generation to your generation, of which 10 or 15% of that amount is going to go for life science philanthropy. And so how do we efficiently unlock that money and make it available to the right kind of people? And that's really, that's my day job.
Terrific. Can you give us, can you share with us, are there transaction size considerations? Are there limitations on the type of technology, the stage of the technology? Or is the answer, you look at these investors and mission funding allows for a more global evaluation? How does that whole mechanic come together?
So mission funding, and we really call it ROM, return on mission versus ROI. Mission funding has a broad range of fundings. I mean, we're doing a small funding now of about $2 million for a company. We're also doing a funding now in the neighborhood of $300 or $400 million, and that's for companies that have solutions for infectious diseases. So it goes anywhere from 2 million to 300 or 400 million. And in every case, we take a look at the technology, not that we can understand it, but through our expert network, we take a look at what the viability is of the project from a funding point of view, and from the point of view of actually getting the solution to the people who need it, whether it's people in the United States, whether it's global. But again, it's affordable, accessible, and equitable.
I know that you're anxious to comment on much of what Svi said. and much of what these two gentlemen have said. So feel free to give us your thoughts on some of the prior discussion as we discussed yesterday.
So I would just summarize by saying one thing to everyone in the room and everyone who is online. You are masters of the universe. Congratulations, you're incredibly successful. I'm a member of the most the generation that had everything. So, but the other point is that disease doesn't look at your FICO score, doesn't look at your bank account. If I were to ask everybody in the room and everybody online, do you know anybody who's had cancer? I know what the response is going to be. Stand Up to Cancer is so impressive. I don't know if anybody happened to watch the World Series. I don't know why you would do it if you're not a Dodger fan, which I am, but Stand Up to Cancer gets 3 or 4 minutes in the middle of the World Series game. I think it was game 2. And I would urge you to take a look at that video. Just go on to the web and type in Stand Up to Cancer World Series. You will see, you'll see a 3-minute video of everybody in the stands holding up a placard saying, I stand up for cancer for a person. And some people had 2 or 3 placards because, and so this is what Stand Up to Cancer does. They not only provide the research dollars, but they provide the inspiration for people to understand that these solutions are there and unlock those kinds of dollars. And so we really do applaud everything that Sean and Julian are doing. And again, I would just urge you to take a look at those 3 minutes on the World Series. It will change your life.
Sean, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just building off. Well, thank you, Norm, for sharing that incredible moment for our mission. One thing that Norm touched on that was a topic of conversation yesterday was the transfer of wealth that's going on. I think alongside of that is the preferences of those inheriting the funds, which is really important to think about. So if you're sitting in that family office position, right, traditional, the matriarch or patriarch, G1, 2, 3, very traditional grant making was how you participated in philanthropic efforts. That is absolutely changing. So next generation that are inheriting are looking at, how do we get involved with these startups, these biotechs that have a greater purpose? How are we using vehicles like donor advised funds and other mechanisms to be catalytic capital to see that ecosystem changes versus outright grant making? So we're seeing a lot of that, the next generation coming on board saying, look, we love what you do, but we want to do ecosystem changes. We want to be a disruptor. We want to be in different industries. And how do we position our philanthropic capital to do that? So I think there's a lot of changes going on with the giving preferences right now and how these next generations, like as Nora mentioned, are going to be the controllers of that. What are they looking to accomplish? So just want to put that out there as an area where we have a lot of conversations about.
The last thing I just want to say is Marty has been incredibly generous with giving.
Marty who?
Marty, I can't remember his last name.
Anybody knows who you're
and I
talking
think I recognize him if he. Are you Marty? Where are you? Marty's been incredibly generous. Marty's been incredibly generous in giving people like Julian and Svi and Sean a presence at his events because it's giving these folks an audience that they really find difficult to access on a very regular basis, on a very credible basis. Marty is the co-chair of the executive committee of Stand Up to Cancer. He's putting in tremendous amounts of time and energy and opening up his whole network to Julian and Sean in a variety of ways with these forums and with podcasts. So I think on behalf of Julian and Sean, we want to thank him. And there's going to be more to come. There's going to be more good news in coming months and years. Thank you, Marty.
Does anyone have any questions for Norm on mission funding or other comments? Okay, then thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one question here.
Go back to something you didn't say.
for lots of AI science. Julie mentioned that cancer is now coming to the well, thanks, Mom.
I'm a full service person.
Thanks. He needed the exercise. Come on. We know each other. Anyway, so you mentioned cancer coming to younger and younger people. You sort of a short list of potential environmental things that we all know about. The list could be, I'm sure, a million miles longer. Okay. Everything I've seen is let's look at this plastics. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. And I'm going, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong, but the approach that I can think of is we should be looking at the cumulative sum total effect of everything on that list. Have you guys, and like I said, we lost it, have you guys seen anything out there that's trying to do that? And the caveat is, I hate to bring up the word AI, but this is something I can think of an AI solution, but I can't think of where the data would come from that AI would use to approach it in this way, as opposed to let's look at one thing at a time.
It's an exceptionally good observation on your part. When I think of the NIH and the $47 billion budget that they have, my view, if I was running a show, would be the job of the NIH for all diseases, including cancer, which has a $5 billion budget, is to do molecular epidemiology across all diseases and to try to understand the root cause of every single disease at a molecular level, at an environmental level. And of course you need AI. It was not inappropriate to bring that up because it's so complex. And we need the power of statistics and AI to try to integrate all of these issues. And it, because of how our appropriation system works, the NIH is not going to reform itself. I had a big fight with Francis Collins, the former director of the NIH, about this about 15 years ago. And he explained to me, he called me Sonny. I was Sonny at the time, I guess. But he explained to me that the way our governmental systems work and the way funding works, it's absolutely the biggest funding agency in the entire globe misusing its funds through their intramural research and not doing exactly what you just said. So imagine that we could fix that. I don't know how to do it politically. I don't know how to do it, in real time, or even in the incoming future. When an administration changes every 4 years with different sets of priorities, like this is a problem that if we don't solve it in the United States, it's just going to move to China, because the Chinese have the 100-year plan, and they're going to figure it out. So cancer knows no borders, research knows no borders, but molecular epidemiology and AI are integral to trying to understand what is actually going on in this complex world environment that we live in, that's leading to these cancers we actually have never even seen before, from pediatric to late adult onset cancers. But right now, a huge fear about the early onset cancers in patients in their 20s and 30s. And it is a great preoccupation of mine to try to figure out solutions. Sadly, I don't have one for you this morning.
Great. Well, fantastic, guys. Thanks so much. You stay there, guys. So my final word is that we have had many family offices come to us. They started a foundation, etc. We're looking at this, looking at that. And I forget who it is, but one of the family offices, their child has I think it came from Norm, they have their child has a rare disease. and they have invested about $25 million of their own money into that rare disease. But the reality is, if you're a family office that's touched by cancer, rather than start your own foundation, you may want to engage Stand Up to Cancer, which can do special projects for you. They have a full white glove concierge philanthropy, and it's better than you're trying to start from the ground up. It's just always better that way. If you and one day, you know, you can sit down with Sean and Julia and walk through their deck, but they know, it's like the Matrix. They're like Mr. Smith. They know like 60-70% of everybody in cancer. So and the amount of time it would take for you to fund and learn what they know, whatever cause you're searching for probably is long gone. So the best thing to do is to stand on the shoulders of people who have already made the progress, like Stand Up to Cancer, and work with them. So that's my final words. Thanks so much, guys. Great job.